Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of the board of Amoud Foundation, I want to welcome you to our ongoing fundraising campaign. In the next few minutes, you will hear about the circumstances that necessitated Amoud Foundation's formation back in 1998. You will hear about the projects we have implemented since and humanitarian projects that we plan to do in the future, inshallah.
In 1960, Somalia, a Muslim country located in the eastern Horn of Africa, won its independence from European powers and quickly established itself as one of the most democratic countries in Africa, with an elected government, a free press, and individual liberties. In 1969, that infant democracy was snuffed in its cradle when a military dictator usurped power, overthrowing the elected government and imposing a stifling, brutal regime. In 1991, the military regime was finally ousted in one of the most violent civil wars in history. The country's meager infrastructure was destroyed. Over 350,000 people lost their lives. Another 1.5 million were displaced and are still in refugee camps in neighboring countries. It was against this backdrop that Amoud Foundation was formed in 1998 by several Somali Americans in the North Texas area in order to respond to some of the humanitarian needs created by the Civil War.
We need the international community to assist not only the children but even the community.
One of the first casualties of any civil conflict is always women and children, and Somalia's civil war was no exception. The death and destruction visited upon the civilian population resulted in thousands of orphans who lost one or both parents and were forced to fend for themselves, some at the very tender age of 5 or even less. It is not uncommon in many towns and cities to see a 10-year-old child with no parents, not only fending for themselves, but also taking care of younger siblings. Imagine yourself being only 10 and forced to fend for yourself with no support system. And on top of that, you have to care for younger siblings. Many communities began to mobilize what little resources they had to establish shelters for these orphans. Providing ongoing assistance to these orphanages was among the first projects Amoud Foundation had undertaken soon after its formation.
We took part in the first orphanage of this kind, which was called Kalma Orphanage. It was established by a group of Somali women in the city of Borama in Somaliland. We assisted. That was our first orphanage that we began to assist. That orphanage today is a school from K through 12, and they shelter several hundred children. The first graduates from that orphanage school have now their own businesses and are not only gainfully employed, but they themselves have begun to employ other people. Today, we have expanded our reach and our assistance to more than 10 orphanages in different parts of the Horn of Africa, from Borama to Hargeisa to Bur'o to Amoud in south central Somalia, to Afgoye in the south, all the way to Wajir in Kenya. 2 more orphanages, one in Gebile in Somaliland and one in Djibouti.
Another area of great need in Somalia and in other parts of the Horn of Africa is the lack of access to clean water. The country's landscape is mostly semi-desert and prone to perennial droughts and water shortages. Large number of people and livestock die each year due to severe drought conditions.
Alhamdulillah, I'm here, brothers and sisters, to greet you first with the salam of Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and then introduce you with information related to a water well that has been dug and commenced by Amoud Foundation in central Somalia in a town called Dabat. And alhamdulillah, this well, the water has been finally produced, inshallah, and it will benefit about 15,000 people who were starving and also having difficulty with getting water for themselves and their animals.
The Somali Civil War destroyed most of the healthcare infrastructure in the country. It is not uncommon to travel hundreds, even thousands of miles with no functioning hospital or clinic. And people continue to die from very basic, preventable diseases such as diarrhea, TB, and simple viral infections. A few years ago, Amoud Foundation began the construction of Al Hayat Hospital in the town of Baruma. The hospital was completed and most of the necessary medical equipment and supplies were installed. The keys to this full-service hospital asset were transferred to the local community elders in January 2010.
On behalf of Kijabi Hospital, we want to just say that in the 4 years that Kijabi has been coming here to work with Amoud University, we have been so excited at what has been happening here in terms of education for your people, and so impressed with all the people that we have worked with, for the vision and the commitment in the doctors and the nurses and the administrators and everyone that we have worked with. We have been so impressed. And indeed, you have come a long way already in the people that you have already produced that are helping in Somaliland. But as been said before, there is still a long way to go in the education and the growth in this country, in this institution, and for medicine. And we're excited to be a part of that. And we're very pleased to be here today because this offers so much hope to the people. But the hope is not in the building. The hope is in the people. And the hope is in the people that you are training.
The Somali Civil War destroyed most of the educational infrastructure at all levels, but many local communities were resilient enough to rehabilitate the physical infrastructure of primary, middle, secondary, and a few colleges and universities. Amoud Foundation provides annual assistance to the first school for the deaf. We also provide full 4-year scholarships for tuition and fees for 2 needy students, 1 male and 1 female, at each of the following universities:
Amoud University, to Hargeisa University, Bur'a University, Mogadishu University, and we plan to continue